Welcome back, Calculus. In this video, I'm going to talk about the derivatives of other trigonometric functions. So we're going to find two together, and then I'm going to just give you the rest of them that you'll be able to use for your homework. So we actually have enough information to find the derivative of this function. We can find the derivative of f of x equals the tangent of x. What we're going to need to be able to do this is to remember a fact. Ooh, that's too opaque. We're going to need to be able to remember a fact about the tangent of x to do this. We have a trig fact, which lets us know that the tangent of x is equal to sine x over cosine of x. So I'm going to do a substitution, and then now we're trying to find the derivative of f of x equals sine x over cosine x. We know a quotient rule, and we know the derivative for sine x and for cosine x, so we should be able to actually find this. So sine of x will be our red function, cosine of x will be our blue function, and the quotient rule says that what we need to do here is first we take the derivative of, or first we take the denominator, which is in blue, and that just stays the same. And then we take the derivative of the numerator, sine of x. And the derivative of sine of x we know is cosine of x. The next step of the quotient rule is we subtract the numerator, which is just sine of x, multiplied by the derivative of the denominator, which is the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine x. And then all of this is divided by the function in the denominator, cosine of x, quantity squared. So let's simplify this a little bit. Now we have f prime of x is equal to cosine squared x plus sine squared x divided by cosine squared x. The rest of this problem is going to have us use some trig identities to simplify this. So I want to call your attention to something here. Cosine of squared x and sine squared x. We have from our trig classes this identity. It's called the Pythagorean. It's one of three Pythagorean identities. And it says that cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x is equal to 1. So I'm going to do a substitution there and make that equal to 1. We have f prime of x is equal to 1 over cosine squared of x. And then we have another trig identity here, which helps us. So 1 over cosine squared, ooh, I was supposed to have the highlighter in green. 1 over cosine squared of x. We have a trig identity that tells us that secant of x is defined to be 1 over cosine of x. So now what we have for this is that f prime of x is equal to secant squared of x. So we just solved and figured out that the derivative with respect to x of tangent of x equals the secant squared of x. And you could do this to get all of the trig identities. You could do this to figure out all of the derivatives. You could use sine and cosine and do them all. In fact, if you're bored during quarantine and you just need something to puzzle through, you could go ahead and do it. But if you don't want to do that, I don't blame you. So I'm just going to give you the rest of them. This is theorem 3.9 in your text. we could take the derivative of cotangent of x with respect to x, and that's going to be negative cosecant squared of x. Could take the derivative with respect to x of secant of x, and that's going to be secant x tangent x. And we could take the derivative with respect to x of cosecant x, and that's going to be negative cosecant x cotangent x. And you're going to hate it, but these are worth memorizing. That's what these hearts mean. You know I don't tell you guys to memorize stuff that much, but these are worth writing in your heart. They're worth putting the effort in to make sure that you know and understand fully. So however you like to memorize things, I would suggest you put in the time here. It's worth doing, okay? You know I don't ask you to memorize often, so if I'm asking you to do it, I hope you can trust